My name is Chineza Manfo, and I lead the public relations team at Nine Mobile.
I work in events and sponsorship, Nine Mobile.
For me, gender bias is a preconceived notion that one gender is treated differently from the other. And sometimes this bias is actually molded in the way we were brought up, sometimes also maybe from the experiences we've had or just the interactions we've had with people. But yeah, a lot of times it might be something that is inborn in us, something that we grew up believing. That's what I think gender bias is about.
I think I like what Chineza said. I also tend to think it's more, there's the cultural angle to it. In terms of society and how they view the role that women play and men, and sometimes this sort of dovetails or sort of expands into the corporate world and other spheres of society, but I completely align with what you said. I'll say yes and no. Yes, because it depends on what the setting you're looking at. So if you take politics, for example, we haven't had a lot of success throwing up female candidates. Meanwhile, a lot of the voters are actually women. So now makes you wonder, why are women not voting for other women? For example, I know when, about 1999, there was a woman that ran and she got only one vote, and that was her vote in the primaries, one of the parties. So imagine that you had more than 300 women at least there, and not one of them felt I should vote for this woman as one of us, because she understands the issues that I'm going through as a woman. So that empathy point of view is something that she can actually push forward, but nobody voted for her. They voted for the men instead. So for me, that also happens in the corporate setting. A lot of bad belly and everything like that, but more in the political scene than in the corporate world. I think Chineza will speak more about the corporate world.
So according to a report by the United Nations released in 2020, 80% of the women they interviewed for that report were of the opinion that men were better in corporate leadership. And that is absolutely not.
There's no science to prove that.
Yes, there's no science to prove that. But they felt that the men were better leaders in the corporate circle. So what does that tell you? It tells you that sometimes women are their own problems. Because how will you believe, okay, what happens in the homes? We are the leaders at home, whether you like it or not.
Yes.
So why will it be different in the corporate circle? So that's what it is. Women are sometimes their own bad luck, or they are worst enemies, if I must put it like that.
Yes, completely. Not just in the corporate setting, it cuts across. Even up until recently, sports like tennis, football we're 11 players on the pitch. Male, female, it doesn't matter. We pursue the same football. We play the same games in front of a crowd. So why are men paid? Of course, there's the issue of sponsorship, which is that sponsors pay more money for sports that are male dominated. So for example, the NBA gets more money than the WNBA, even though they do the same thing pretty much. So that also fits into the sort of wages that they get. But that conversation is gaining ground, and women are getting more recognition in terms of the kind of pay that they make. So instead of just saying only men will be paid. But in the corporate world, fraud also happen. I mean, you can take, for example, let's use the banking sector, for example. Just take a sweep, or just take a random look in your head and think of the CEOs across the banks. Out of every 10, you probably will get maybe one woman. So those are the kind of things. So for example, are you saying that there are no women rising through the ranks that will come up and become CEOs of banks and things like that? So those are the issues.
And then when you run a predominantly male organization, or where you have more male, tendencies are that they will get more promotion than the female. So it's a no-brainer.
So the question now becomes, is it deliberate? Is it a HR FOPA, for example? Is it something that HR is doing but they don't know that they're doing?
I think it's more like maybe the women are not even putting themselves forward, because there are women that have the capabilities, but they are not putting themselves forward for people to recognize that they have the capacity.
Even if they apply, for example, will they get the opportunity?
Well, maybe HR needs to do everything in their hiring system.
Yep. So even if it's a quota system type of thing, for example, say, okay, I'm hiring 10 people, but I'm going to deliberately leave 6 of these roles for women. Especially in places like tech. The tech space is actually doing it these days, where they are pushing in a lot of women into tech, which is actually changing, not like before, but I don't think in other sectors it's working like that. Things need to actually improve, particularly politics.
Yeah, particularly politics. I think standardization is a good place to start. What do I mean by standardization? There should be standards when you think about salary structures. There should be a fair playing ground. It shouldn't be because you're male. If you have the experience, if you have the capacity, if you have the capability to perform the role, you should get the same wages as your male counterpart. So standardization is a good place to start.
Especially because it's not as if you are going to lift cement. It's more mental work. So how can you out-mental me when we both have brain? So it's not as if you're bringing more to the table than I in terms of intellect. So why am I getting less paid than you? Then you also have to look at it from a cultural point of view. As a society, we have this mindset that, I do not want to go into religion and all that, but we have this mindset that the man is superior. It's a mindset. It's not necessarily true, but it's what people are brought up with, and they come up with that. So it also behoves on us as parents to instill certain level of the fairness that Chinese spoke about in our children. So for example, if my child grows up thinking that he's better than a woman, when he gets older, he gets into that mindset that this is what I am. Then you say, for example, as a man, I'm not supposed to cook. I'm a man, I'm not supposed to sweep the house. Benny, you're not a king, you're just a man. There's no... What is special about you? Apart from the fact that you're just a man, there's nothing special. So cook, sweep, clean, do things that you need to survive eventually if, peradventure, you are on your own. For example, my stepmom made sure that all her sons can cook. So if today something happens and you're not married, are you going to be eating or cook? So there's nothing special about being a man. You're just a man.
Yes, they have a big role to play. First, in the area of support. I think men can support women a lot more. Support them in achieving their goals, support them in achieving their career goals, support them in being more visible, because sometimes women shy away from the limelight. So support them, help them become more visible, help them to don't take the glory all the time, because what happens is that women do the work and then a lot of times men take the glory, or because we have that notion that men are the bigger people, or they are the ones that are the powerful ones. Okay, so men supporting women is number one for me in changing the gender bias issue. Support women, support them, help them, carry them along as well, and that will go a long way in helping us maybe not completely erase the gender bias, but at least make some improvements. Okay, and of course it's a continuous process. It's not something that started today. It's not an issue that started today. It's something that we will continue working on until we get to a comfortable stage where we can say, okay, we're comfortable now with the way things are.
I agree with everything Chinese has said. I also want to say it's everybody's role, but at the same time, more men than any other person. For me, if you're not supporting women, or for example, as a husband, you're not supporting your wife, it's basically inferiority complex, because what are you afraid of? That she will outshine you, or what is it? At the end of the day, if you support your wife, and especially in the economy that we are in now, that things are hard, you can't carry the burden by yourself. You need support. So if you encourage her to be able to bring that support into the family, clearly you guys are now... So I say this thing every time, that men that are afraid that women will disrespect them if they earn more than they do, what are you doing that? Because nobody just wakes up and starts disrespecting you. You must have been doing something. I have a friend that has never worked a day in his life. His wife is the breadwinner, but she never disrespects him because he wakes up in the morning, baths the kid, watches the plates, takes the kid to school. He does the things that he's supposed to do, even though he's unemployed. So you that you are unemployed and your wife is the breadwinner, but you are forming a giddy, you are playing video games, put leg on the table, and you are the king of the jungle. Why should you not disrespect? You have to pull your weight. So support your spouses, support women, support the children, the girls that you bring into the world. Give them the opportunity. Tell them they can fly, they can achieve whatever they want to achieve. There's no limitation. Just because you are a woman doesn't mean anything. It's like a man can achieve.
Today is International Women's Day. We join our voices with millions around the world to say, break the bias against women.
Here for you, here for Naija.